Hey, I'm Kristin, and this is Locked in a Closet, a podcast where my friends and family come on and try to give me the creeps by telling me stories of true crime, paranormal, urban legends, and all things spooky. Today, I have my friend Ashley on. I met Ashley not very long ago, actually, through Bumble BFF, and she's great. We talk all the time, and she's absolutely wonderful. We've been talking since we met about her coming onto the podcast because she has so many different stories about paranormal stuff and just like super spooky stuff. So that finally happened, and I'm really excited about this episode. Her stories were nuts. They're so good, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to them. I am just going to let you know that it's a pretty long episode, so you might want to grab a snack or like listen to it on your drive or something like that, because we're definitely over an hour with this one. So without further ado, here it is. Okay, so hi.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I'm so excited. This has
Me
been
too.
like, it feels like a long time coming. It hasn't been a long time coming, but we've been talking about it for like weeks now.
I know, and it's so hard to not like talk about it,
I know.
even though I really want to, but I'm like, oh wait, I'll keep it for the podcast.
I know. We got to get that content.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always thinking about that.
Yeah. Okay, so I know one of the things that you want to talk about was Robert Pickton, because I had mentioned it super quickly, just like in the last episode with my sister-in-law, and you have an interesting little connection to it.
Yeah. When I was listening to that episode, I was literally driving, and you were like, oh, the guy with the pigs, and he fed them, and I was just like screaming Robert Pickton, like out loud. No one was with me. And yeah, it was really funny because that happened like maybe 15, 20 minutes from where I grew up.
Oh.
And actually, one of the kids I was in high school with, like I didn't really know him personally, but apparently his mom was one of the victims. We found out later on because
my God.
he had to go to like the trials and stuff, and it was really like crazy. It was just kind of weird to have like that big of a story happen and be almost like 6 degrees of separation away from it.
Oh yeah, you're so close. It's so scary.
Yeah. And then when I was an adult and we moved, we actually ended up buying a place like a 10-minute drive away. And so me being obsessed with true crime, I immediately went to drive by. And the crazy thing is there's like these brand new townhouses right beside the property. And I'm like, do these people know where they live? Like,
yeah, really. I bet some of them probably don't.
Yeah. And part of the property is still there, just left. I think like last time I drove by, there was cows in it. But yeah, you'll see like on the property, there's mounds of dirt from where I guess they like excavated looking for further evidence. And it's just to drive by that and know what happened is dark.
Yeah.
And there's like a Walmart literally right across the street now. Like,
oh my God. Yeah. Yikes. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's weird that it's like, I don't know, like that people just like don't really care anymore, or like they don't, it like doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, there's so many people buried. Like, oh my God. Ugh.
Right? Or like the fact that like people live there and probably don't know what happened, and like I feel like I would want to know. Like I don't know if it would change whether or not I'd buy a place, but I at least want to know.
Oh yeah, I would too.
These little families and kids like running around, and I'm just like, oh, that's the dark place to live now.
Yeah.
But it's totally changed, and it's all like developed and stuff. So I don't think anyone really realized. And like I said, I feel like no one talks about that case as much. Like
no, it was really big like when it was happening, obviously, because it's so like, oh my God, that's disgusting. But yeah, no, I haven't heard anybody talk about it for years and years now, which is
I know one podcast covered, I think they did about 3 episodes. I think it was the last podcast on the left did it, and I listened because I was so into learning about that because it was so close to home. But
oh yeah, for sure. Ooh. I can't believe that.
It's creepy.
It's wild.
Yeah, that's my connection to that, even though it wasn't much of one. But yeah, I've got lots of spooky stories.
I know. I feel can't wait.
I feel like I don't personally have a lot, but then when I talk to other people, they're like, "Oh yeah, nothing's ever happened to me," and I'm like, "What do you mean nothing's ever happened to me?"
I know. Like I can't imagine that. Like Rebecca in the last episode too, she was saying that like she wants it to be part of her life, but like also what does that even mean? Like you have like 3 experiences your whole life. I'm like, I would rather have 3 experiences my whole life than every day have to deal with this. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, and I related to her in that way where it was just like she wanted to do the Ouija board, and somewhere part of me wants to as well. absolutely not. Because I know that
Yeah.
could follow you home.
I know. And like, if you do it wrong, then you're just screwed. Oh my God. I want nothing to do with that.
Yeah. And then there's definitely the part of me that's like, I'd love to have more paranormal experiences. But then like last night, I was telling you about how my dog was just barking at this corner of my room. And I was like, absolutely not. Please go away.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I had no interest. I just laid there and was like, it's just a shadow. Like,
If I don't look, it's not real.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yikes.
like dogs seeing things that we don't see is definitely like, I believe that. Because when I tell you about this house that I used to live in, our family dog would just stare off into like this one corner of the house all the time.
Oh God.
And we knew that house was haunted, and we were just like, nope, she's not looking at anything. Like,
yeah. Oh my God, I hate that.
Yeah. No, that house, I can talk about that one first.
Yeah, sure.
That house, we say it was haunted. Like, nothing crazy ever happened other than these two stories. Well, like, you know, things would be misplaced. And it was like my mom and my stepdad and my two brothers and me. So there was a lot of us in the house. So it never got chalked up to anything like that. Or like if cabinets were left open, we just assumed it was like one of my brothers. But then we started having some crazy things happen, and then we were like, yeah, this house is haunted. And then we ended up moving, thank God, but totally unrelated. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the house I lived in while I was in high school was haunted, and I was probably like 15, 16. So that young age where you kind of believe in it, but you kind of don't.
Yeah, you're like still forming your opinions.
Yeah, and the house that we lived in was like an older house, but not like a super old house. It was like from the 60s or 70s, and the basement was unfinished.
Okay.
So
already
part of the
creepy.
story is, yeah. So part of the story is like the way the house was set up. So when you walk in, it was the kind of house where it had like a landing, and then it had a set of stairs up to like the upper floor, and then a set of stairs that went down to the basement.
Okay.
And my bedroom was in the basement because I was like the teenager who needed her space, but it was unfinished. So my bedroom was basically just walls and a carpet. I didn't really care too much, but the house though and that basement definitely had vibes. Like, you always felt a little uneasy, especially if you were alone. I hated being alone, especially at night. I would often have to babysit my brothers, and I just dreaded it. But yeah, so he was slowly renovating it. So eventually my room had walls, but for a good chunk, it was pretty creepy. And then also I had a computer in my room, so I was really lucky, but it was mostly because I just hogged it, and they wanted to have my own.
You claimed it.
Yeah, so they just gave me one in my room. And then, you know, as, you know, a 16 or 17-year-old or however old I was, I would sit on like MSN or AIM till like 2 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So one morning around 3 a.m., I was on my computer chatting with my friends, and I hear the dog. She would move from room to room at night, like, and just kind of check up on everyone in the family. So you would hear her walking around quite a bit, and that's what I attributed 99% of the sounds to, whether or not it was, because
it's nice when you have like something that you can blame.
Exactly. And I chose to blame every sound I ever heard on her because it was just easy. This one night, I heard the sound of her walking down the hall towards the first set of stairs, but it was loud. Like, it wasn't like a normal dog step. Like, I paused actually for a minute, and I went, oh, it seems pretty heavy, those steps. But it really didn't faze me. But I was also creeped out, so part of me was like, oh, I'm just looking for something to be afraid of. And then I heard her go down like the first set of little stairs and pause at the landing. And at that moment, as it paused at the landing, I went to adjust like the blanket around me. And as I go to pull in the blanket, there's a little bit of tension, and I look down, and my dog is laying at my feet.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I was just like, I literally just paused, and I looked at her, and then I heard a little bit of a sound, and she kind of perked up immediately. And I just jumped up and slammed my door. I was not waiting for those steps to come down the stairs.
My eyes are watering. Oh, that's so scary.
I was like, and like, it was just my parents that were home. Like, my brothers, my real brother, he would stay with his dad a lot more. And then my stepbrother always stayed with his mom. So it was like mostly just me and my parents, and like they wouldn't have done something so weird. Like it was almost childlike the way they like almost ran across the hallway and then a little bit down the stairs.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I just ran and I slammed the door shut and I turned all the lights on. And I don't even think I slept that night. I think
God.
I think I turned music on so I couldn't hear anything because I didn't want to hear more footsteps.
Oh my God. That's so scary.
So I remember telling my mom that, being like, I heard some sounds last night. And she's like, oh yeah, like the ducks are pretty loud, like the house is shifting, like all the classic stuff. So I was like, oh, okay. But like in my head, I was like, no, I don't think that was just like the shifting of the house. Like those sounded like very defined footsteps.
Oh.
And then the other thing that happened to me was one night while my room was being rebuilt, like my dad was putting on drywall and stuff. So I was sleeping on like my mattress was just on the floor and all my furniture was out. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I look up because I'm on the floor and I look up and there's literally a man standing like right by my bed staring down at me. And I just screamed because I was like, I didn't even miss a beat to let my eyes focus. I just screamed and threw the covers over my head because
that'll protect you.
That'll protect you, yeah. And my parents came running down and they're like, what happened? Like, what happened? What's going on? And I was like, there was a man in my room. He was standing in my bed. Like, and so my parents, they checked the whole house and they actually did find that the back door downstairs was unlocked and kind of open.
Oh no.
So, like that could have been a legit person.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's also terrifying.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, like it didn't look like a real person. Like it was hard to explain, but the look of the person was very like dark and shadowy. But maybe it was just because I could have been waking up. But
yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So
either way, that's terrifying.
Yeah. So that morning, I remember talking with my mom about it and all the other like sounds that I've heard and things that have gone missing. And she's like, yeah, like I really didn't want to tell you this story because I didn't want to freak you out because like we have to live here.
Classic mom move.
Yeah. I was like, what do you mean? What story? Oh. So she was telling me one night what was just like her and my stepdad. I think I was out. Both my brothers were gone. It was just her and my stepdad. So they were like watching TV in their bedroom. And eventually my stepdad fell asleep. So she turned off the TV and she went to go to sleep. And as she, rolls over, she sees my brother standing at the door. And she goes like, oh, Matt, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing up? What do you need? And as she says that, this little boy that she thought was my brother literally just slides between the wall and the dresser that was right beside the doorway.
Oh my God.
And my mom just like immediately went, wait a minute. Like all my children are in the house. Like no one's supposed to be here. So she flipped the light on. They searched the house.
Oh my God.
And she realizes now, she's like, oh, it didn't even look like Matt. It was just like a young boy.
Just assumed because you don't assume it to be any other child.
Right. Instantly goes into mom mode. Like, what do you need? Like, yeah. So I'm fairly certain that house was haunted by a little boy that would like run up and down the stairs and walk along the hallway because I would always hear footsteps at night. Yeah. Going up and down those little stairs, or like the hallway was kind of like right above my bedroom, so I would always hear that.
Jeez,
that's
so scary. God. Oh my God. Your dog, like the dog footstep thing, it made me think at my parents' old house, we have a cat and she's like a friggin' huge cat. Like you hear her when she walks and you definitely feel her if she's on you. And sometimes at night she would like come and like jump on the end of your bed and walk up. You could feel her like walking in between your legs. And I felt that one time. Well, I felt it a couple times. And I reached down to pet her and there's no cat there. And I was like, oh my God, we have a ghost cat. Like it's nuts.
I've heard stories like that.
Yeah, my mom experienced it too. It's so like it feels like there's a cat walking up your legs. But it was not my cat.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, we had a boxer that died fairly young. And he used to sleep in my room and he would sleep right up against my bed. And like he would kind of, when he'd go to lay on my bed, he'd like throw his body against the bed. So it would shake my bed a little. And then he would slide down and he'd steal all my covers in the process. And I swear, after he passed away, that happened at least twice, where I felt my bed shake. Or then I'd wake up in the morning and I'd try to pull my covers up, but there'd be like a little bit of resistance until I looked, and then they'd come like flying up. So like I love the idea of phantom animals though.
Yeah, that's not scary.
Yeah, it's like
they're not going to do anything.
Happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still unsettling when you're not wanting that energy.
When you go to pet a cat and there's air there, like it's weird.
but you can feel the pressure.
Yeah, it's so strange.
That was like, I've never experienced, what is it when you're sleeping?
Sleep paralysis.
Paralyzed. Sleep paralysis, yeah.
Ooh, I hope to
I had
God I
never
never
experienced that, except for, I think it was like a couple months ago.
Oh, really?
And I've never had it since, and it was just that one time. And I knew what it was, thank goodness, while it was happening. Because I think I would have freaked out a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
I've heard
I just
terrifying stories of sleep paralysis.
Yeah, I just woke up. I literally couldn't move. It's the strangest thing. Couldn't roll over. And then I just saw like shadows. And I'm just like, it's sleep paralysis. You know what this is. You've read about this. And so I was able to like talk myself down, but not being able to move, it was weird.
Oh,
like,
yeah, I bet. Yeah, I've heard such scary stories about that. And I'm like, I hope to God that never happens to me because I don't know what I'll do. I never remember my dreams. So if I'm like remembering something happening, I'm assuming that I'm like wide awake and it's real because I don't remember my dreams ever. So
Ever?
I've never, unless somebody dies in them and I like wake up crying. But
yeah.
other than that, I never remember my dreams.
Crazy.
Yeah.
If I wake up and I know a dream is fresh in my head, I will literally like type it out. So
I wish I could do that. Actually, that happened once in like the last 3 years that I remembered like 3 different dreams that I had one night, and I wrote them out because they were so weird. I was like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah, and usually they're so vivid too, and you're just like, what does all this mean? Like, I always want to find meaning in it.
Yeah.
Probably isn't.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, there's always like the common ones that are like, oh, if you're losing your teeth, you're stressed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I have lots of those.
Welcome to 2020.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of dreams, that kind of reminds me of another story that I don't know if these were dreams or if it's just like a kid having an active imagination, but I literally used to freak the heck out of my mom and my grandma because I would like talk to them in the morning and be like, oh, like, I don't even know how to explain this without sounding weird, but because it's all going to sound super crazy, but I literally would talk to them about this woman or this imaginary friend that would come and visit me at night, but it just started raining so hard that it was creepy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I used to say it was me. It was me coming to visit me. And I know how crazy that sounds, but I would explain that this woman came at night and she would sit at the end of my bed. And every time she visited me, she looked different because she would be a different version of me from a past life.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right?
I got goosebumps. That's
right?
So cool.
And legit, one time she looked exactly like Amelia Earhart. And I'm not trying to say that I'm Amelia Earhart reincarnated. Yeah. But that's the look she had. Like she had like the aviator, like cap and goggles and outfit, and, like short blonde hair. And one time she was in like in this big dress. Like I really only have a memory of the aviator girl, but my mom has told me the stories that I used to tell her. So yeah, she used to sit at the end of my bed and tell me about my past lives because she's like, it's very important for you to remember your past lives. And like I was 8 years old or something, and I was like, okay, cool. Like,
yeah, like where would you have heard of that though?
Exactly, and that's the thing, and that's what freaked my mom out the most because I'd be like, I would explain what the woman was wearing, and she would tell me, and she'd be like, oh yeah, like under this dress I have a petticoat. What 8-year-old knows what a petticoat is?
Yeah, that's like, so cool.
Right? Maybe this all came from like various TV shows and stuff, but it used to freak my grandma and my mom out because we used to live with my grandma for a little while. And yeah, she would just dread those talks. And I'd be like, hey, my friend came to visit. And she'd be like, cool, tell me all about it.
You're like, yay.
So freaked out. Yeah.
My mom did daycare for the longest time. And she had one little kid who, oh my God, I think she was maybe like 4 when she started saying this, like 4 or 5. And she would say that like she used to have 2 sisters. Like she did have a sister currently, but she used to have 2 like different sisters, and they used to sit on the back of a wagon together. And like she would come over, like because my mom did daycare, she saw her like every day, and she would tell her these different stories about her and her sisters that she used to have that she doesn't have anymore. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, that's neat.
So, like, where do kids get these ideas?
I don't know,
or like,
it's nuts.
Or when we're kids, like, do we remember things that like as an adult you forget? Like it really made me want to go do like hypnotism and past life like regression just to see. Like I'm so curious. Like
yeah, I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, like I don't really know what I believe. I think I want to believe that like reincarnation is real because that's the most comforting to me to know that I'll come back.
Yeah.
But it's just weird. It's weird that I visited myself. Like, I don't get how that works.
Yeah, I've never heard anything like that. That's super cool though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just weird. I know that really scared my grandma has, like, she has her own experiences with, like, the paranormal and stuff. So she was treating it 100% like, oh, this is a ghost visiting her in
this
our
is
house
real.
kind of thing. Yeah.
That's
Or
so cool.
our granddaughter's going crazy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I had an active imagination because I would have all these crazy stories like that. Or like your sister-in-law in the last episode, she was talking about that angel she saw, and how she was describing it immediately brought me back to this memory I had when my great-grandmother passed away. So my mom was 16 when she had me, so really young, and I actually got to know my great-grandmother very well up until, I think I was like 8 or 9 or 10 when she passed away.
Oh wow, that's a lot longer than most people have.
Exactly, right? Well, and then my grandmother passed away so young, so
Yeah.
it all balanced. So I knew her, and like my mom would actually go and clean for her once a week. So we were like, I saw her a lot. And near the end of her life, she had dementia, so she was in a care home. But we still went and visited her, even though she didn't recognize us. And it was like super traumatic, I think, for a kid my age to have to go through.
Oh yeah, that's traumatic for like anybody to have to deal with a loved one going through that.
Right.
Oh my god.
So I think like that trauma might have caused this like dream that I had, where in the dream I was at this like house that was kind of like not abandoned. It was abandoned, but not like dilapidated or creepy or anything. Like you just knew that no one was there. Like
Okay.
you know, like I don't know if you don't remember your dreams, but for me in dreams, like I'll be in a space and it'll look nothing like my house, but
you like know what it is.
Yeah, like this is my house, even though it's not. So it's kind of like I knew that this house was familiar. I knew it was important, so I just like walked into this house, and in this like back room of the house, I could see this like light shining. So we started walking towards the light because that's what you do. That's reasonable. And I enter this room and I see like an old man standing there, and he's got this like soft yellow aura like immediately around him.
Okay.
And then a bright white light around him.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was kind of like, I don't know if you ever saw that episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns comes out of the woods and he's like glowing. And that's what
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
It's kind of like that, but not creepy or anything. But like, it was actually weird because looking at this man, I immediately felt like warmth and calm. Like, it was immediately like being transferred, like, you're okay, this is a safe space. Like, I didn't feel scared. And actually I saw flowers everywhere because like the house was abandoned, so like the flowers were growing in there. It was really kind of cool.
Okay.
But in the dream I just instantly knew who it was. I was like, that's my great grandfather, who I'd never met.
Cool.
He had passed away like long before I was born. But in the dream I was like, hi, like I think I called him like Papa or something. Like, and I ran up to him and gave him a hug, and he was like really emotional. It was like seeing someone that you had to say goodbye to again, but I had never met him. But it was really weird.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so he was like talking to me, and he's like, you need to be strong, like it's time, you have to be okay with it. And like in my dream I knew
like you're dying.
Yeah, and I was like, what's happening? And then as he was saying that, I realized, oh, it was my great grandmother's time. Like he was trying to tell me like it's okay, like it's her time. So I was like crying, and he was like wiping my tears, and his hands felt like warm and comforting. It was so weird. And then I see like another bright light, just like his, come from like the entrance of the house where I had come in. And it was my great grandmother, and we all like hugged and embraced. And like I knew in my heart of hearts, I'm like, oh, I'm helping her cross over. Like such a weird thing for a kid to be like.
How old were you?
I feel like I was like between that age of like 8 and 10, like where a lot of stuff happened.
Oh my god, that's so young.
Yeah. Maybe 12. I'm trying to think of how old my brother was and gauge that. But yeah, so I woke up, and like you said, when you wake up from a dream where you're upset and you're crying, and so I was crying, and then I didn't really tell anyone about it because it sounded like such a bummer. And I don't know if it was the exact day that she passed away or if it was just a coincidence, but like I think a few days later my mom like sat me down and was like, oh, your great grandmother's passed on, like, and we had the talk, and I didn't even really think about the dream because I just kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
But
it could have very easily been the same time though that she was actually passing away.
That's what I always wonder. I wish I had known or wrote it down, but as a kid, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were at our apartment a couple weeks later, cleaning things out, and I was going through like an old photo album, and I was like, Mom, like, is this great grandpa? And she's like, Yeah. How do you know that? Like, you never got a chance to meet him. And it was just like an old Polaroid of him, I think, like, and a dog. Like, it wasn't even like a marriage photo or anything obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, How the heck do you know that? Like, you never got to meet him, unfortunately. And so I told her about the dream, and then that on top of like my past life story.
And
like,
once again, she's like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah. I gotta get this kid an exorcism.
Oh God.
Yeah. But I always
That's
like to think
wild.
that dream, like, I helped her cross over and bring me peace or whatever. But
Yeah.
also freaks me out. So I'm like, I don't want to ever have that dream again.
I know, eh? That's crazy.
Yeah. I think as an adult, I've locked away that openness so that things don't happen, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah, you just kind of learned how to like protect yourself from it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're a
right?
kid, you're just like, okay.
Yeah, come at me, Spirit.
Yeah. What else?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because then my mom would tell me after I told her that, she's like, oh, yeah, like, your grandma has had a similar experience to that. And she said that when, I can't remember who it was that passed away in my family, but my grandma woke up and there was like three like matrons of the family standing at the edge of her bed holding flowers. And that was it. She like woke up, saw these three women of her family standing with flowers, and then the next day someone, I think it was like her uncle or aunt or something, died.
Oh.
And yeah, so it was kind of like an omen or some sort of
Just like a sign that it's coming.
Yeah, I was like, oh, maybe like that's how my version of that manifested, was a dream. But
yeah, that's so cool. Oh my God.
Yeah. I remember my mom though saying, she's like, I never want to experience that.
Yeah, she's like, you go ahead, you do whatever you want.
Yeah, you have your ghostly encounters, I'm okay.
That's crazy.
So yeah, so that's all my personal stuff that's really happened. Thank God it was all as a child, so that I don't have to deal with that now as an adult.
Yeah, and you can blame it on like an overactive imagination.
Right, yeah. Like when I was writing out these stories, I was like, I think you could attribute like some of these things to like television or trauma or circumstance, like coincidences, but it's kind of fun to also think it's a little like spooky and paranormal.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah,
I remember when I was, I know I was in high school. I think I was probably like 16, 17. The house that we lived in started like having some weird stuff happening to it, but I also was like just getting into Paranormal State. Like I would watch that show all the time and freak myself out. So it was probably a lot of that, but like every time I would walk down into the basement, I could hear somebody like typing on the keyboard, but like it was super faint and there's nobody there. And I mentioned it one day and my brother was like, oh yeah, like I've heard that too. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you don't believe in this. Like what are you talking about? Yeah, it was nuts. And then in that same house, I kept seeing like this guy with spiky hair holding a knife, like a shadow of that going down the hallway, like towards my bedroom. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But I mean, nothing ever happened. Like I only ever saw that like 2 or 3 times. But
that's enough though. Like,
oh yeah, I wasn't happy to see it, but like didn't get worse.
The typing thing though, that's funny because I remember in the last place we lived in our apartment, we were like ground floor near the entrance, so I was always paranoid someone was going to break in, and we were like the first apartment they'd see. And I remember, maybe this was like a sleep paralysis or like a dream blending into reality, but I remember waking up one night and hearing someone typing on her keyboard like furiously in the other room. And I remember waking up Jeff and being like, someone's in the house, they're on your computer. Why would
that's what they would do.
Exactly, they're hacking into your computer. He was so confused because he couldn't hear it. I heard clear as day typing and then like rustling as if they're kind of going through our desk. So eventually he goes out and no one's there. But that's funny, the keyboard thing. I wonder if that's like a common thing.
Yeah, it was weird. It wasn't like, I don't know, someone was like banging on it. It was literally like somebody was just putting their fingers like over the top of it super lightly. Like it was creepy. So weird. Yeah, I don't know. It was really, really weird.
That's more unsettling than if it was just actual typing.
Yeah.
They're trying to get your attention just ever so briefly.
Yeah, like, hello, I'm over here. Do you want to go on MSN?
Yeah.
Around that same time, like when I first started driving too, or I think it was when I started driving like on my own. So I was probably like 18 or something like that. I'd be going down the road and I'd be seeing these shadow figures on the side of the road. kind of like darting by to the side of the road. It was scared the shit out of me because I thought it was a real person. I was like, okay, am I gonna hit somebody right now? But I mean, no, it wasn't anything. But it
I
scared
always
me
heard
so much.
that was always like a Wendigo or Wendigo. If you see like shadows moving alongside your car,
Oh,
never to look
really?
at them. Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah. I mean, don't
Too
worry.
late
I have
now.
like the same thing where I'm like stare straight in the fear straight in your
Yeah.
eyes.
No, it really freaked me out because it looked like humans were like at the side of the road, gonna dart into traffic.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
That actually
Didn't like
reminds
that.
me, in that house that was haunted, we would actually, in like, if you were in a room and out of the corner of your eye, you would always see this black shadow of a figure rush by the door.
Ooh.
It was just like, yeah, like a shadow by the door. It always happens, and we were like, oh, there's the shadow guy back. That one never felt super ominous.
I hate that that's just like a normal thing though. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
there he is.
yeah, it became a joke. We were like, oh, there's Steve.
Oh,
Because it would
God.
just like be like a shadow across the door frame, and it was only door frames or like pillars or something that you'd see the shadow through. And
Weird.
yeah, you'd see it in the corner of your eye, so you wouldn't even quite think it happened. You're like, did I just see that, or was that something in my eye, or
Oh my God.
yeah,
That's nuts.
shadows are creepy.
Yeah, they really are. They freak me out a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't think that they did, but talking about it now, I'm like, ooh, I don't like that.
It wasn't a humanoid figure. It was just like a wall of black light that would go across the door frame. It was weird.
Yeah, that's super strange.
Yeah.
Oh.
My favorite spooky story though is my great uncle's, which I'll tell you.
Oh yeah, you had mentioned something about it.
Yeah, I mean, like hyping it up. It's probably
Yeah, it totally happened.
But it's one of my favorite. Like, his story reads like a ghost story, like a classic campfire,
like creepy Canada.
Yeah, or like it. Honestly, I'm gonna read you out this creepypasta that it reminds me of first, and then you can compare it after.
Okay.
So have you ever heard of the story of the portraits or the cabin in the woods? Have you ever heard that creepypasta?
I don't think so.
Maybe you might I don't know how popular it is, but I definitely know about it. But
okay.
So yeah, the story goes that there was a hunter in the woods who, after a long day of hunting, was in the middle of an immense forest. It was getting dark, and having lost his bearings, he decided to head in one direction until he was clear of the increasingly oppressive foliage. After what seemed like hours, he came across a cabin in a small clearing. Realizing how dark it had grown, he decided to see if he could stay there for the night. He approached and found the door ajar. Nobody was inside. The hunter flopped down on a single bed, deciding to explain himself in the morning to the owner. He looked around the cabin and was surprised to see that the walls were adorned by several portraits, all painted in incredible detail. Without exception, they appeared to be staring down at him, their features twisted into looks of hatred and malice. Staring back, he grew increasingly uncomfortable, making a concerted effort to ignore the many hateful faces. He turned to face the wall, and from exhaustion, he fell into a restless sleep. The next morning, the hunter awoke. He turned, blinking in unexpected sunlight, looking up, and discovered that the cabin had no portraits, only windows.
Oh no!
And so that story gives me the chills because I don't know if you've ever looked out a window at night and like you can't really see much.
No, but like your brain makes it so you see faces.
Right? And then like you just know that they can see in so clearly. Like especially if there's like lights on.
Yeah.
I hate looking at mirrors and windows at night. I always just kind of avert my eyes.
Yeah, close curtains.
Yeah, close curtains all the time. Like I don't want anyone looking in anyways. But yeah, like I literally have a big fear of looking at my window and seeing a face. Like whether it's a person or a ghost, I don't want to see it.
Yeah, no, either way, don't want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so his story has so many similar parallels that part of me thinks that he just made it up. But I feel like this creepypasta, I don't know how far back it goes or if it's like recent internet like writings, but he's just like not that kind of person. Like he won't tell a story for the sake of the story because he has so many stories. Like he's lived so many lives. He literally would just go, he went and backpacked around Europe in the 80s by himself. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, he's done so many different things. He went and moved and lived in the Northwest Territories, moved in to a city there and married a woman up there. And they would just travel around all of like BC and northern Alberta. So one time they were telling me that they used to drive down every summer to visit my grandmother, which was his sister. And they would drive down like the Alaska Highway and they would see just crazy things. Like one time they saw Jesus. They just saw a man dressed like Jesus, carrying like a massive cross on his back, barefoot, just walking along middle of nowhere, like hours between the next town.
Oh my
And
God.
so, yeah, so they're like, and this was like in the 80s, so I tried looking up to see if this was like someone did
A
like
thing.
a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't find any news articles. But yeah, so he's like, I'm gonna pull over and I'm gonna ask Jesus if he wants a
Oh my
ride.
God.
Because like, I mean, isn't that what you do?
Why wouldn't you?
No.
It'll get you right in.
Yeah. So he goes to pull over, and my great aunt was like, absolutely not. If you pull over, I'm leaving you. Like, we don't know who this crazy man is.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So they saw lots of weird stuff. So I don't really think he'd need to make this story up. But yeah. So anyways, he was definitely like a frontier man. What he did, like what he thought was a thrill as like a teenager, was he would just get someone or he would drive himself, and he would just get dropped off on the side of the road and just hike in.
Oh God.
No trails, like no, like he would just have a compass and maybe like a rough map, and he just like hike in and then hike back out, just see what he could find. Especially in like northern BC, it's just so much nothing, no towns. So yeah, and he would do that by himself. And I think he said he was like 16, like so young. He
Oh
would
my
just have his
God.
like bag full of stuff and like a compass.
Things have changed so much.
Oh, I know, right?
God. Never in a million years would a parent let a 16-year-old do that.
Right? Not even if they had like a group of people and cell phones and stuff.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
full
so
reception. Nope.
no. Yeah. And like he would just say, like, I'll be back at the road at this exact, like around this point at this day. Like if someone was gonna pick him up, or he'd just try and find his car again if he drove himself. Like,
Oh my God.
absolutely insane.
That makes me think of Blair Witch.
Yeah,
It
like
freaks me out.
I didn't get all the stories out of him, but he said that like so much stuff happened, but this one story was probably like the worst one. But like he would go hiking in northern BC, so he'd say like, oh yeah, like I came across so many grizzlies and cougars, and like, and you're by yourself. I don't even know if he had a gun. Like,
Oh my God.
so,
Yeah.
but so the details of this story are a little bit fuzzy because I heard the story probably like 10 years ago when I was younger. But yeah, this was one of those trips where he literally just got dropped off on the side of the road and decided to hike in, see what he could find. So he hiked for about 2 or so days at this point, which was like about 10 to 12-hour days long. So he was pretty deep in the woods at this point. And he was trying to find somewhere to put his camp down because it was getting kind of late. Sun was going down, but where he was at was really marshy, and like there was no solid good ground for him to put a tent up. So he kept hiking, and he finally came across this little bit of a clearing and then a cabin, like a hunter's kind of style cabin, like middle of nowhere in the 80s in like northern BC.
Okay.
Which like isn't too uncommon because people do like to go and have their hunting cabins way in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So like he didn't immediately get creeped out or anything. He's just like, oh, I've stumbled across a hunting cabin. So he went to go see if anyone was there, and see if he could set up his camp because the ground was nice. And so he approached the cabin, he knocked the door, and no one was there. But he could push the door open because it was like an old kind of.
Oh my God, this is very similar already.
Yeah, right. Like there's so many parallels.
Did he write that?
Yeah, that's what I wonder. Like, were you on Reddit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the cabin was pretty old, kind of falling apart, but it provided him shelter since he had seen some grizzlies along that trip. So he got settled in. He cooked up his dinner and he kind of just sat outside and enjoyed the night. But he kind of had this like weird nagging feeling that he like felt like he was breaking and entering. Like he felt kind of awkward and a little bit creeped out because he's like, oh, I didn't expect to see anything, like
Right.
Untouched wilderness. So he felt like he was kind of trespassing and didn't want to get in trouble, and the cabin creeped him out. So he decided he was just going to pack up his stuff and hike up the ridge. There's a ridge behind the cabin. So he hiked up the ridge and he camped at the top, and he had a view of like the valley and the cabin below. This is okay. Like I don't need to be under a roof because it wasn't raining. So he goes to bed, and at some point of the night, he was kind of startled awake by like a faint bang. And so he like unzipped his tent, or did they have zippers in the 80s? He goes out of his tent and he looks down the ridge, and he can see that there's like a lantern on down by the cabin, and there's lights on, like not lights.
Oh, I'm getting freaked out.
Yeah, candlelight and lantern. And he's like, oh, thank God I didn't stay down there because that would have been embarrassing, like, or he could have got shot by someone being startled or something. So he's looking down and he can hear the sounds of like pots and pans kind of banging, but not like to make noise. Like someone's like
just like
unpacking or cooking. Yeah, like, and then he can hear faint conversations and like the door opening and closing of the cabin. So he's like, oh, okay, these hunters have hiked in to their cabin. I'll go say hi in the morning. So he wakes up in the morning. He makes himself breakfast and he made some coffee to bring down to apologize to the people there, being like, oh, I'm sorry that I broke into your cabin and used it. Here's some coffee or something. So when he gets down there, the cabin was completely in the same state as he left it. No one had been there. The dust that he disturbed was the only dust that got disturbed.
Oh my God.
No one had been in that cabin that night. Like it looked like.
That's so weird.
Yeah, there was like no sign of like a fire out front, which he swear he saw, like nothing.
Oh.
He said that
so
it
creepy.
freaked him out so much that he literally just started like immediately just turned around and went back, even though he had like a week left of his trip.
Oh my God.
He just left immediately. Because he's like, the cabin was dusty, so like when he went inside and he hung out in there, like he saw all his dust prints and stuff, but like there was nothing else to indicate anyone else had been there.
Oh my God.
Or outside. And he's like, I know for a fact I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard people talking and like lights down there, like a campfire out front.
Ew.
Yeah.
That freaks me out so much. It literally makes me think of like Blair Witch, like when they're all like outside the tent and stuff. I know that's fake, but
I thought it was real when I was a kid.
I know they did it really well, but holy, that's terrifying. I wonder what it was.
And like he said that he's had some creepy things happen to him, but that was by far like just the weirdest.
Yeah, like
experience.
No explanation.
Yeah, and he hiked right out. He had no interest in being in that area.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Yikes, that's so scary.
Yeah,
and it sucks because like we'll never know what that actually was.
Yeah, like maybe people were there and they just happened to like pack up and leave before he woke up, but
put all their dust back.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, but I just thought that was
weird.
funny because he had told me that story, and then I think a few years ago I stumbled across that other story, and I was like, wow, these are very similar. Like, I'm sure it's not hard to think up a story like that, but it's still just wild that maybe it came from a place of truth.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so weird.
Because he told me a ton of other stuff. Like when he was backpacking in Europe, they stayed in like what he said was haunted castles that they would just kind of like stumble across and just go sleep in and hear things in the night. Yeah, and I'd always be like, "Tell me more." Like,
yeah, really.
You'd be like, "Ah, no, you're too young." Like,
no, I'm not.
Yeah, I want to hear it all.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't want you to not sleep tonight. Like, I don't care. That's
I don't need sleep.
For. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
He also told me this other story. Like, I don't know if you ever heard about this murder that happened in Walsgrave Park in BC. It happened in 1982. So in short, basically, a family was out camping in this kind of like remote area of BC, but it was still like a popular place to go camping.
Okay.
And anyways, they were just completely massacred by a local man for seemingly no reason at all. Just he went in, found some campers, killed and tortured them, and that was that.
Wow. And
it took him a long time to solve the case. I think it was like a couple of years to solve the case, just because so much of that case got muddled. Like the eyewitness testimonies were like, yeah, I saw the camper that was described driving on the highway, when it turns out that the camper was actually still there and had just been set on fire. So they were looking for this camper that never actually
was
left.
Right there.
So there was a lot of like red herrings on that case that took them a while to solve. So my great uncle was saying that they were actually camping in that same park either before or around the same time that happened. And it must have been before, because I feel like if it had happened, they wouldn't have gone there. But
I hope
they were
not.
like, so they were just like camping. They were sitting there having their campfire, and they saw a man kind of step out from like the tree line, and he was like holding a shotgun. And they're like hi. They like waved over and like just wanted to say hi, and we're like, what can we do for you? And the guy was just like, oh yeah, I'm just out for a walk, got my gun for safety. And he was like kind of acting all squirrely. So my great uncle was kind of like motioning for his kids to go like run to the truck. And so he's kind of like talking with this guy while his like wife and kids are all kind of sneaking off to the truck, and then
subtly rushing away.
yeah, and he's kind of slowly backing up, being like, well, have a good night. And then the guy just like kind of stares him and looks at him, and then just kind of like goes, like nods his head and kind of turns back and goes into the bush. And they said that they packed up everything that night. Like they got vibes.
Yeah.
They packed
Get
up
out
and
of
they
there.
just left. Yeah.
Yikes.
So like,
did they
it
ever
could have been
find?
a coincidence.
Did they find the guy that killed the family there?
They did. They ended up finding him. Yeah.
Okay.
But so I always wonder, I'm like, was that the same guy, or was it just like someone out with going for a walk in the campground, or
with their
like,
gun in Canada?
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, the 80s were a different time.
Oh yeah, heck yeah, but still. Yikes.
But yeah, they were spooked, and then I think like years later they kind of put it together. They were like, oh, I think that was the same guy that murdered that whole family. Like,
yeah. Oh my god, that's so
I always
scary.
thought it was a coincidence, and it just happened to be. Well, yeah, I always wonder. I'm like, what if that was the night that he decided to do it? Because I remember I looked into that case pretty extensively after I heard that story, because I was still curious. And he didn't really have much of a motive, and just kind of said that he went and did it.
How did he kill the family? Do you know?
He shot them all, like
he did
execution style. But apparently, he the 2 little girls he kept for a couple days, and
that's so sad.
Them and then killed them.
Well, maybe they just narrowly avoided that one.
Yeah, well,
that's so scary.
My 2 cousins that were there were, I think, a little too old probably for his liking, so that's why he was just like, yeah, no thanks, and left.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's lucky for them.
Mm-hmm.
Still horrible and so scary, but oh my god.
Yeah, and like I love camping, but there are so many stories like that where I'm like, maybe I'll just never camp again.
I know.
That's all like the stories that I wrote down. I do have like the only other interesting kind of paranormal stories is my grandpa is a commercial fisherman.
Okay.
So he never liked to talk about this stuff either. So it was like little bits and pieces I could get from there. But he would say that like they'd pull up like bodies in their nets, like their fishing nets, like body parts, just a hand.
God.
Yeah.
And then
like,
you have
really,
to like touch it to get rid of it.
Yeah, and like the messed up thing is like instead of calling the cops, they just throw it
back. Oh no.
Because it apparently, like if that happens, there's so much red tape, like it shuts down their whole fishing season, and then like, that bankrupts them. So like apparently that's not uncommon, and that's so disturbing.
Yeah.
Like the story of like all the feet that they find all along like in Seattle and in BC and stuff. All those like I'm pretty sure that some of those bodies were probably the bodies to that foot.
That's insane.
Yeah, and then like he was the one that would talk a lot about aliens because they would be out in the middle of the ocean, kind of off the coast off BC, off the Vancouver Island, like no land that they could see. And he would say that they would see these bright lights that would go, sometimes they would go down into the ocean.
Oh.
And sometimes like if they weren't near land, these bright lights would just like slowly kind of either quickly go into the ocean or slowly kind of just go and then just like drop into the water and then disappear.
Ooh.
And I know, I'm like, well, maybe it was like a meteor or something. Like, you want to try to like,
not.
Right? But I immediately go, War of the Worlds. They're down there. They're waiting.
They're gonna attack us from within.
Yeah. Or like if they were moored kind of off the shore, near the land, he said a couple times they'd see the same kind of bright light slowly go and land and then disappear into a forest. And then a couple minutes later, just shoot up off the ground and into the sky again. Like,
oh my God, that's wild.
Right? He was an alcoholic for a good chunk of his time there. So part of me is like, okay, you're just drunk and seeing things. But
you never know.
You never know. Like, me and my mom still swear that we saw a UFO on Christmas.
Really? Oh, on Christmas?
Yeah, on Christmas of all days. So like we would always go to my grandma's house for Christmas and then stay really late, and then my mom would drive home late that night, and then Christmas morning we'd spend at our own house. So it was one Christmas Eve night rather. We're driving home, and it was about like an hour and a half drive from where my grandma lived to where we lived, and it was down like just back country roads. And yeah, we were just driving, and then all of a sudden, because I was awake but my brother was asleep, and my mom was driving, and we both just saw this big light. And like it was near an airport, so like maybe it could have been a plane, but I've never seen a light so big in the sky. Yeah, and it wasn't like going in any sort of like landing pattern. It was just kind of there and just slowly kind of moving along the horizon. And we were both just like, do you see that? Like,
oh my God, that's so weird.
Yeah, like the only way that we still describe it, it was like the size of a school bus in the sky, just like completely light. Like you couldn't see anything other than a light. Like it was so bright.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were just like,
I wonder if there's like videos of that, like on YouTube. You know how everybody just like sees them and then.
Yeah, and like this was back in the 90s. So it's like no one had a cell phone with a camera. I know. So all of these, yeah, I don't know. It could have been like you said. Like I said, we were near an airport. Maybe it was an airplane, but it just didn't feel like it was moving in an airplane kind of way.
So
like
crazy.
Yeah. So we still talk about that.
Yeah, I've never seen any kind of alien thing, but honestly, it scares the shit out of me. Like the idea of seeing that, just because I've watched like a lot of YouTube videos of like people who have like experienced that and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know.
Yeah, it was so mild. Like it was just a big light, but we were both like, that's not a plane. That can't be a plane. And I'm pretty sure that traumatized me so bad because as a kid, I would close my blinds, close my curtains, because in my head the aliens couldn't beam me up through
oh my God,
they couldn't see me.
I used to do something. Oh my God, when I was a kid, oh my God, I haven't thought about this in so long. I used to like, if I would like go to like turn on a light or something and I would like miss the switch and it would like turn on then turn off. Yeah. I'd be like, oh no, what if aliens think that that's like a cue to like come into the house?
I absolutely love kid logic. Like, yeah, for me, it was like, if the blinds are closed, they can't get me.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
This is the same thing. I feel like as a kid, I had anxiety that was undiagnosed. That's only progressively gotten worse.
Yeah.
Because I refused to sleep on my back. Because if I slept on my back, that meant someone could come into the house and stab me in the chest.
Oh, because they can't stab your back.
No, my back is just a solid piece of iron.
But it's like a blanket too. Blankets make it so you can't get killed.
Exactly.
It's common knowledge.
And then I used to sleep facing a wall because I was so scared of waking up and seeing a face. And then this messed me up because at one of the places that I lived in, this massive wolf spider, like I swear it was the size of a tarantula, started crawling down the wall.
Oh no.
So I ended up having this like crisis where I ended up pulling like my bed into the middle of the room and there was no safe place to sleep. Because I couldn't
like a piece of like Bristol board and put it up beside you.
No. The more I think about it, the more like I was a messed up child. Like, how did my mom not take me to therapy?
Because that wasn't a thing that happened when we were kids.
I know. Right? Or like, this is another thing. This is, like when 9/11 happened, I used to live literally in BC right by the border. We were like a 5-minute walk from the border, very close. And in my childlike head, because of all the media that we had consumed around that event, that like, say if they did bomb all of America, I lived so close to the border that I was scared that bombs would spill over the border. Oh. So I would pray at night, please don't bomb America.
Oh God. You poor thing. I remember this is just a stupid kid logic thing now, but I remember when was it a tsunami in Sri Lanka happened? My dad was in Peterborough. Like Peterborough, Ontario. So like not anywhere close to Sri Lanka. But I remember he was there. I said to my mom, I was like, Mom, like, how close is Sri Lanka to Peterborough? And she's like, not at all. Like, shut up. But I was terrified that my dad was in a tsunami.
Well, Peterborough, what does that say about you?
Oh my God, it was so bad.
I love that. I love kid logic so much.
Oh my God, just so stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Oh my God.
yeah, please don't bomb America. Like, but it was selfish. I didn't want to die.
I mean, hey, maybe you saved a bunch of people.
Yeah, it was me.
It's the
God,
power of
listen to
prayer.
me. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to remember all the other things. Oh, I was like superstitious too, so I would do things. I think I had borderline like
OCD.
like an OCD, so I would start to do things because of like a ritualist aspect of it. But I think I stopped doing that as an adult. So, yeah, as a
Well,
kid.
that's good.
Yeah, or here's another one. As a kid, I would only sleep with my bedroom door open because it meant I would have a quick getaway if someone tried to kidnap me. The door wasn't holding me back. I watched too much true crime as like a child. It's not.
I know, I used to watch Creepy Canada and stuff all the time, and then I was terrified.
I remember, speaking of Blair Witch from before, the day we watched it, you know, we went and rented it from Blockbuster. Yeah, but I was there. And I remember my mom came home and she's like, oh, we're going to watch this movie tonight. And I tried to talk to my mom about this before. She's like, I didn't do that. I wouldn't have done that to you. But she legit was like, yeah, we found this VHS on the ground. Like, let's watch it.
Oh, no.
So, like, I'm not joking. For, like, probably
I thought it was so real.
6 years, I thought it was real because they shut it off before the credits.
Oh, no.
Like, I had no indication. I did not sleep. That's probably, you know, the root of a lot of my anxiety.
That's so mean.
Yeah, I remember being like, Mom, do you remember that? She's like, I never would have done that. That's cruel. Why do I remember you doing this to me? Like, I was so, because she was like, she worked at a university. So she's like, yeah, like, these are students of mine. Like,
oh, no.
I can't remember. I haven't seen it in a long time, but doesn't it say at the beginning, like,
it's like a project that she's working on. Yeah. I watched it the other day.
Yeah, I think I saw it a few years ago, but like that is still one of those movies that genuinely freaks me out. Like,
yeah, I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, I don't think I can finish this.
Yeah.
And then Blair Witch 2 exists, they made a sequel to it.
I remember watching
absolute
that a few
shit.
Years ago.
It's horrible.
It's really like campy and kind of like love story-ish.
Yeah, I don't even remember. Yeah. I watched it when I was in high school, and I was like, this is a piece of shit. Like, this is
but
horrible.
The first one
horrible
still
movie.
holds.
Oh yeah, it really does.
Because camping, the whole coming back to camping freaks me out.
Yeah,
but I love to do it.
You're super vulnerable.
Yeah, my mom was actually. I was out at my husband plays softball, so he was at a softball game, and I'm sitting there watching. And my mom right now, her and my stepdad bought a trailer, and they're kind of just driving through BC, going camping and stuff. And so I get a text where she's like, I can't remember where it started off with, we're fine, but we were shot at or something. And so I'm like trying to call her, and she doesn't have really good signal. And I'm like, what do you mean you were shot at? Like, what's happening? And I finally talked to her a few days ago, and she's like, yeah, like we were at a campground, and all of a sudden we just heard like gunshots. I was like, well, you know, maybe they were
hearing gunshots and getting shot at is very
good. I'm like, way to give me a heart attack. Like, so she was like, oh yeah, like we were camping, and then all of a sudden we just heard a ton of gunshots, and then we went outside, and then we would hear like gunshots in like sets of 3 or 4 or 2, like, and they got freaked out, and they thought someone was going around all the campgrounds and just like executing everybody.
Yeah.
I don't think that happened because I never heard anything in the news, but I was
that's
like, Mom,
scary though.
Yeah.
That's where my head would go to.
Yeah. Oh, immediately. That's when immediately when she told me, I was like, oh my God, what if they were coming to get you?
Oh my God, that's so scary.
She's the queen of clickbait and text though. Text me something that's like scandalous, and I immediately have to call her, and she's, oh yeah, no, we just heard a few gunshots. Like,
it's probably fireworks.
Yeah, like, you don't have to rope me in. I will call you. I will talk to you.
You're like, you're not getting paid for this YouTube video.
The only person who's interested is me. Like,
oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, but they're up camping and driving around that same road where like 2 or 3 years ago, where those 2 guys went and killed all those people, and then there was like a manhunt for them.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then also they're on the Highway of Tears, which is also another crazy like place where tons of people get murdered, mostly Indigenous women. But like, so when she told me her camping itinerary, I was like, be safe. Like, that's not a
like, why don't you just come to Ontario?
Yeah, she hates Ontario. Too painted for her.
Oh yeah, I mean, I believe
Yeah.
it. It's disgusting.
I don't disagree. My hair was curly, so you can tell how painted
Yeah,
it is.
I know. Mine was curly today too, and then I looked at my hair at like, I don't know, probably 10 o'clock, and I was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
I think we're done. I loved it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Look at me.
I love.
I'm gonna actually end one. Thank you for coming on.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. This is fun. I love talking spooky stuff. Like,
Oh my god, that's great.
I just want to hear everyone's stories
I
because
know.
I love hearing that. Like, even if it's just simple, like, oh, like I saw someone, like a shadow in my house. Like, to me, that's so much more genuine and scary than like the big scary stories that people write.
Yeah, or like watching a movie or something. It's like, no,
Yeah.
like that's clearly made up. Like this is something
Yeah.
that, whether or not it's like a ghost or whatever, like somebody experienced it and scared the shit out of them.
Yeah.
So obviously I
And
want to
it's
hear
like,
about it.
yeah, and it's more real and believable if someone's like, yeah, like one time my light turned on and off. So I'm like, whoa, that was someone trying to, like, in my head, I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
somebody trying to signal to the aliens that it's time to come in and abduct them.
It's okay, just close your blinds. They
Just
can't come
close your
through.
blinds. Put your blanket over your head. You're fine.
Yeah. They respect blinds. I don't know what it is.
They sure do.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah. we were equally messed up as children.
Oh my god,
so.
like I don't even know. You guys, I love those stories so much. Oh my god. Ashley, thank you for coming on. It was so good. This is probably my favorite episode so far. No offense to Kathy or Rebecca. This one was just nuts with all of the stories. All right. Once again, I don't know what the heck is happening for the next episode. Might be my mom. Actually, it'll probably be my mom. I think that's what's happening for the next one. So yeah, until next time, stay spooky.